This lesson focuses on the brain. What you need to take away from this is an overview of the structures and function of the brain, including the cerebellum, which is this area at the back here, the cerebral hemispheres, and there's two of these running next to each other over the top of the brain, and finally the medulla oblongata, which is the brain stem connecting the brain to the rest of the body. The cerebral cortex is split into two, and these are called the cerebral hemispheres. Now, the cerebral cortex has a primary function of determining our behavior, being able to sense, being able to remember. For example, the front of the brain, so this the prefrontal cortex it's called, which is just up here and the frontal lobe, that is responsible for being able to smell and the emotions and personality. So this whole area is responsible for emotions, personality, learning, being able to smell. If we go to the back of the brain, same, we're still looking at the cerebral cortex, but at the back of the brain we've got things like the area for vision, being able to taste around the top, and sensitivity around the top. So massive area of the brain which controls all our behavior, senses and memory. And this is a view from the top of it, so you can see these distinctive two hemispheres. Interestingly, the left side of the brain, so this side, controls the right side of the body, versus the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body. The cerebellum is this quite large area of the brain hidden beneath the cerebral cortex. Now, the cerebellum is responsible for balance, motor skills, being able to coordinate the body. It's quite closely linked to the ears, so the balance senses in the ear directly communicate with the cerebellum that then can communicate with the rest of the body. The medulla oblongata is the final part of the brain we need to look at today. Now, the medulla is featured here it's also called the brain stem, so it links the brain to the rest of the body via the spinal cord. So if we follow this down, you come to the spinal cord. Anyway, this chunk here, the medulla, is very, very clever. It's got a pacemaker in it, so it controls the heartbeat, controls breathing, which is why you don't think about breathing. You can override it, so you can take in a breath and override the medulla, but essentially the medulla is this pacemaker for your breath and heart, and it will just keep them ticking over. It controls reflexes, so because it's that first point of call from the body into the brain, it has a lot of responsibility for reflexes, things like vomiting, sneezing, swallowing. These are all linked to the brain via the medulla. Really important part of the brain. To finish up, try testing your understanding of this learning outcome, so looking at being able to describe structures and function of the brain, including the cerebellum, cerebral hemispheres and medulla oblongata. Pause the video and test yourself on these 10 questions, and I'll post the answers on the comment box beneath.